Hi, I'm Brett Parker, multimedia specialist for snack food and wholesale bakery. And today we're focusing on Feel Good Foods, a brand that makes gluten-free versions of your favorite comfort food. One of their leading products is gluten-free mozzarella sticks, which is being received very well by consumers. Here to discuss this is Vanessa Phillips, founder and CEO of Feel Good Foods. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about how Feel Good Foods first got started?
Yeah, sure. So Feel Good Foods is a frozen food brand that focuses on frozen snacks, appetizers, and breakfast foods. The inspiration behind the brand was just came from like a personal need that I was dealing with in my life. I was diagnosed with celiac disease in my early 20s and had to learn really quickly about eating gluten free and cooking for myself, but also immediately had this space in my life of just complete deprivation of all the foods that I ate as a kid and that I missed. So I quickly learned how to recreate all of my favorite foods, but in a gluten free version, with simple ingredients and delicious. And that led to the creation of Feel Good Foods.
Now, I know your mozzarella stick product is doing very well right now, and I just want to ask, what do you think makes that product so special compared to similar products on the market?
So all of Feel Good Foods focuses on, foods that are incredibly nostalgic, indulgent, crave worthy, and, invoke that like childhood memory. So mozzarella sticks is, a beloved frozen food product, like full stop. It's also like the number one appetizer on restaurant menus. So it was really no surprise to us that it was going to be a clear front runner for Feel Good Foods. It took us some time in terms of like research and development to get the product launched. It actually didn't launch until late in 2021. So before the mozzarella sticks, we had a ton of other snacks like pot stickers and egg rolls and more, like Asian ethnic snacks. And worked tirelessly to come up with a gluten-free mozzarella stick. We knew that it was going to be really successful because one of the models that we use at Feel Good Foods is we take what does really well with gluten, and then we do it in a gluten-free version, and it always mirrors, if not exceeds, products with gluten. So we were tracking just regular mozzarella sticks and how they perform, and how it's just such a beloved appetizer for consumers, and figured out how to do it gluten free. And then as soon as it hit the market, it just went to the top. It currently holds like 7% of total market share of mozzarella sticks, which is really exciting for us, especially given the fact that it is gluten free. So it has that, unique selling point. But I think it's really just that everyone loves a mozzarella stick. It's gooey, it's crispy, it's crunchy. And the fact that it's gluten free and you wouldn't know it is just an added bonus.
What do you feel is the most difficult aspect of creating a product for the frozen food space?
I don't know about other brands and what they find difficult. For us, it's less about it being frozen and more just about us having a really high bar for ourselves. Like we really pride ourselves on always delivering on taste first. And we don't want people to think of us as a frozen food brand. We want, us to come across as like you're eating at a restaurant. If you're making our foods at home, it feels like you're dining out or you got your favorite takeout. So we hold a really high bar for ourselves on delivering on taste and excellence. And whether it's frozen or not, it's just that we are like, the standards at Feel Good Foods are incredibly high. So just delivering on taste and excellence, and obviously always using simple ingredients, I think is what makes it difficult. But that's just like a pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, I did want to speak for a minute on the gluten-free aspect because it feels like your brand is really bringing a healthy angle to foods from restaurants that may not necessarily be known for being the healthiest of foods. So I was curious what you feel the gluten-free aspect, like how that makes the foods you make healthier, and what kind of challenges does that present?
Gluten free is very personal to me. Like I said, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. So I don't ever eat anything with gluten. So, when I was diagnosed, it was like my life's mission to be able to bring back all the foods that I missed. And then, once we tackled the gluten free aspect, then, what really makes it healthier is really being mindful of all the ingredients that we put in our products and making sure that they're really simple and straightforward and that you could find at a grocery store, or give you that experience like you're eating out. I mean, I think gluten free in general is more difficult, when you're creating, because wheat typically is like able to be more of a binder and hold it together, and obviously gives a very different texture in terms of crunch. So there's a major food science component to making the products gluten free, but it's something that's always on, and it's an attribute that we will never compromise on. But what's interesting is because we really, hit the mark on taste, we, find that like over like 60% of our consumers who buy Feel Good Foods today are not gluten free for medical reasons. A lot of times consumers don't even realize that the brand is gluten free. So, taste comes first and foremost, and then gluten free is just an attribute that we just always have.
Now, going into the future, if your brand decides to select new foods to market as a gluten-free product, I was just curious, do you have a set of principles when it comes to how you select a specific food product that you want to craft for the brand?
um, Taste is always at the forefront of everything we do. And then being gluten free, but aside from that, really like the sky's the limit. If it fits within those brand guardrails, we could really do anything.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Vanessa Phillips of Feel Good Foods, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching.